Tonight on the HPT from the Ameristar Casino in East Chicago, we continue our Season 12 kickoff with another exciting episode. With only 4 players remaining, the race to the title and the cash is just getting started. Find out who will be our next champ tonight, right here on the HPT.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HPT. I'm James Larson alongside our analyst, Kenneth James. This week, we are here at the Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago. Last week's show was wild and crazy. The best hand rarely won.
Crazy. What do you mean? The best hand always wins, James. Maybe not the best starting hand, but remember, poker is a 7-card game, not a 2-card game. Plus, if some of these guys were a little more aggressive pre-flop, they might have protected their hand and won a little more often.
4 players remain at this final table, and I have to remind you, my friend, up top, almost $212,000.
Yeah, it's a lot of cash and a lot of pressure for these players to deal with. Let's see how they do it.
People didn't tune into the show to look at us. They want to see some poker.
Yeah.
Let's get down to the table, take a look at the chip counts and the prize pool.
Every player guaranteed 4th place money, just over $60,000, but the big cash, it's all up top, almost $212,000.
Over, nearly $500,000 in play. And let's look at the chip counts with Steve Jewell running away with it. Looks like everybody else is fighting for second place.
But you know how poker goes, Kenna. One double up, you got 4 or 5 million, you do it again, you got 8, all of a sudden you're the chip leader.
Absolutely, especially if you take it back from the chip leader to the table we go.
Wow, just like this, Chris, pocket 10s, first hand of the night, nothing wrong with that, 4-handed.
It's very important because it's $250,000 every round with only 4 players left. Action, it figures to be fast and furious.
Yeah, we're playing 60,000, 120,000 with a 15K ante. Now, Andrew wakes up with ace-10, and he's all in. A 3-bet shove here by Andrew.
Overly aggressive. This time it looks like it's going to get him in trouble.
4-handed, though. Ace-10.
It's overly aggressive.
Is it overly aggressive?
I think so.
I know you think so. Action over now.
And also the way it's been trending. This isn't the first time he's stepped in the mud, so to speak.
Exactly. Steve and Jim both folding. Chris is going to make the call, and Andrew's going to see the news. Still alive with his ace-10.
3-1 underdog.
3-1 dog right now. Pocket 10s go. But remember last week. Remember last week. Flop is queen 6-4. What I'm referring to, we talked about it in the open.
The starting hand doesn't always hold up.
Exactly. Good flop, though, there for Chris with his pocket 10s. Turn card now is the 7 of clubs.
Andrew's going to need an ace from space to stay in this tournament.
Andrew Mills, just 23 years old. He's a poker dealer, hoping to keep his tournament hopes alive. We go to the river. It's the 7 of hearts. And that's going to do it for Andrew. You remember, Kenna, he started our final table as the chip leader. Now he's going out in 4th place.
A very talented, aggressive player. Perhaps a lack of discipline got the better of it.
Just 23 years old. I'm sure he can find plenty of places to use that cash. Just over $60,000. And now you talk about pay jumps. 3rd place, $86,156. Not too shabby.
And you know, James, it's $50,000 between 3rd and 2nd.
Action on Jimmy's going to raise it to $325,000 on the button. Small blind's going to fold now over to the big of Mr. Jewell. Looks down at ace-9.
Ooh, this is another one of these tough spots, as we can see. But when you're on the table and it's 3-handed, ace-9 looks like a monster.
So a raise here? A flat?
Yeah. No, he raises. I like it.
He's going to raise. Re-raise to $800,000. Jimmy quickly goes all in, and Steve snaps him up just like that, and he's going to see the bad news. Jim Casement ahead with his ace-jack, going up against Steve's ace-9. As you see, Jim at risk. Now, last week, we saw him hanging around with that alligator blood of his.
Absolutely. Hanging around.
We'll see if he can double up. The flop is king, 10 deuce, couple of hearts. So Jim in the lead.
Will the best hand hold up this week?
Turn card now is the 5 of spades. Yeah, last week we know what was happening. All kinds of fireworks.
Yeah, the best starting hand didn't end up the winning hand.
Now we go to the river card. It's the 8 of hearts, and Jim's going to double up to $5.6 million and get within shouting distance of Steve's chip lead.
We got a game on our hands.
We're going to take a break as they reconcile the chips. Can Steve hold on? Stay tuned to find out.
Welcome back to the HPT main event final table, coming to you this week from Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago. We have 3 players still in the race for that HPT bracelet and the first prize of $211,777. So let's get the cards back in the air.
Thanks so much, Tatiana. It's James Larson and Kenna James broadcasting from the beautiful Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago, where 3 players remain. And look at this. Chris picks up a hand. Ace King.
Wow, great to pick up premium hands, especially when you're down to 3-handed. And we're seeing things different now. The premium starting hands are holding up.
Ace King. Chris is going to raise to $260,000. Now Steve wakes up with pocket 6s.
Now he has an interesting decision. Does he 3-bet or does he just flat call here?
I like that decision. Go set mining. And now we move over to Jim. Are these graphics right? He's got pocket queens now. Unbelievable.
You know, it's 16-1 to be dealt a pair, and here we have 2 pairs and Ace King.
Jimmy's going to raise to $760,000. What's Chris's move here?
Fireworks. I think he's going to move all in. Yep,
All
he does.
in. Probably enough to get Steve's 6s to get out of the way.
Right.
And he's going to do just that. And Jim has to make this call.
Automatic
He's
call.
going to flip over. And, you know,
We're off to the races.
Exactly. You see the percentages, but you know how huge Ace King really is here up against any pocket pair.
Right, because you're going to see all 5 cards. Here we go.
And the flop, just like that, Ace 10, 9.
Wow.
I don't care if they're queens, 5s, 7s, 9s.
Once again, the ladies let you down, though, for Jim.
Right, yeah. Ace
Sorry, Jim.
King for Chris. He flops the ace, a pot of almost 10 million chips, and the turn card is the Tray of Hearts.
But, you know, every time Jim has stood up, he's pulled the miracle card. Can he do it one more time?
We go to the river card. And it's the deuce of diamonds, so Chris is going to double up. But Kenna, more importantly, he's going to get within 500,000 chips of the chip leader, Steve Jewell.
He's Yertle the turtle catching up to the rabbit.
Up top, $211,777. Second place, not too shabby. That's 6 figures, too, just over $131,000.
80,000 difference between the two. These players all vying not only for the championship, but for that life-changing money, and it really is.
All right, we go to Steve now. He's going to raise with his king 6, and Jim wakes up with 9s. He's going to 3-bet shove, and now Chris has got pocket 6s. Boy, we are seeing fireworks tonight.
A lot of premium hands dealt 3-handed.
Now, are they going to gang up on Jim here? Chris is going to make the call, but Steve's going to get out of the way, so it's going to be pocket 9s for Jim against pocket 6s for Chris. Jim at risk. He is in the lead with his pocket 9s. We go to the flop. And the flop, just like that, Jack 9-7. Jim flops a set.
Jim, now he's using his get-out-of-jail-free card just when he needs it. Although he wasn't in jail. He started with the best hand, and it's going to hold up.
Turn card is the Queen of Clubs, and the river, the Queen of Spades. So just a full house for Jim Casement.
Jim stays in the tournament, and more importantly, stays in this competition for the $200,000+ first place prize.
This is Jim Casement's 5th HPT cash. He's had a 6th place, a 29th, a 17th, a 26th, but he wants to win this thing because he wants the title, the bracelet, and I need to remind the folks one more time, almost $212,000 up top here on the HPT. By the way, if you want to play one of our events, check out the webpage, hptpoker.com. It's folded over to Chris now. Looks down at 10-9 of hearts. Kind of a fun hand to play. Anytime, really. It looks so nice.
It's all fun and games when you're winning.
Right. Chris is going to make the call. Now over to our chip leader. Looks down at Queen Tray. That's Steve. Now, Steve's got to be careful. If he wants to maintain this chip lead, there's still 2 players in the field that want to take him down. He's going to check his option.
That's the thing about poker. You're staring at opponents constantly looking to take you out.
Flop is Ace 7 Tray, rainbow. Chris is first. He's reaching for chips.
Now, Steve with the best hand with a pair of 3s right now, but Chris with the initiative. If he keeps up the initiative, he should be able to take home this pot. The
bet is $180,000. Steve's going to make the call. We had 671 total entries. We are down to our final 3. Turn card now is the 8 of hearts. So
Wow.
good card there for Chris.
Huge turn card for Chris. It gives him a lot of outs to his draws, both a flush draw and a straight draw. You can see his percentage chance to win now has zoomed up to 45%.
And how about the open-ended straight flush draw? That's even
correct.
more fun to talk about, Kenna.
Yeah, it
I mean,
really
straights
is.
and flushes are okay, but the straight flush, that's what we're all looking for.
But look at Steve. It looks like he's getting out some calling chips.
Steve paired his 3.
Yeah,
he does
he's
have
just-
a heart, but
he's showing
only
some
one heart.
determination, you know. Oh, look at this. And that was made to pair.
A terrible card for Steve. A queen
Wow.
of hearts. Chris makes not the straight flush, but a flush.
Right.
Steve makes 2 pair.
And you know, this is where you get in trouble when you get off your discipline in calling with bottom pair, you know, on the turn here. And now he's going to have a really tough decision. He's probably going to pay off. He does.
He just makes the call. And just like that, Chris Bradshaw is going to win the pot, Kenna. But more importantly than that, he's our chip leader now. And we'll see if he can go the distance, be our next champion, go home with over $211,000. We'll have more action coming up right here on the HPT. Welcome back to the HPT. It's James Larson and Kenna James.
Look at the chip count. The tail of the tape has Chris Bradshaw taking over the chip lead with 9.6 million. Jim pulling up the rear with just over 3 million.
We broadcast from the Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago. Little known fact about Chris Bradshaw. His dad is Terry Bradshaw.
Get out of here.
No, I was just joking. Action on Jim Casement. He looks down
Well,
at ace-8 of hearts. On
Really
the
good
button.
hand. Yeah, that's a good hand, 3-handed.
Sure is.
Especially, and now you have position. So he's going to open it up for a raise.
He's going to raise it up now to $350,000. Casement into this event for just $375. I love seeing a return on your investment like that.
Yeah, risk reward, and that's what HPT offers. Get in, you know, for a little, come out with a lot.
Action over to Steve. He's going to make the call with his 6-5 of spades. Heads up here. And the flop is ace, king, 6, so a little bit of something for everybody there.
Exactly right. It's going to make it a little tough for Steve, but he should recognize that bottom pair on this board in a raised pot is not great value.
Steve's going to check over to Jim Casement. Talked about this before. Jim's best finish on the HPT, 6th place. Already improved on that here.
And as you can see, Steve is staring him down in that stare you like to call the death stare.
Yeah, it's the Dyersville death stare. He's patented this thing, and he's going to raise to $875,000. And just like that, Jimmy's all in.
Steve just stepped in the mud here and wisely folds his hand. And that's okay, you know, a little feeler raise to feel where you're at in the hand. And then Jim answered him.
Boy, do we dare make a prediction on who we think's going to take this thing down? I really don't know.
It's interesting, yeah.
It's too close to call. I don't care who the chip leader is. Things have been going up and down like a seesaw, and this is the HPT. Keep that in mind, Kenna. This is the HPT, and they're all so close. Each player so close to taking down this title. Action here to Steve on the button.
Another nice hand, 3-handed, and again on the button. So it looks like how the players play out of the blinds when they're out of position is going to have a lot to determine who ends up being the winner.
The raise was the $380,000 by Steve. Jim makes the call with a couple of Broadway cards.
We call that King Jack the Kenna James, by the way.
Oh, the Kenna James.
Oh, that's
sure.
what I call it.
Absolutely. The Kojak.
Gives me an extra reason to play it.
The flop is Queen 9-5. Couple of hearts. Jim's first.
He's got the gut shot straight draw with a 10. Now, Steve should make a continuation bet here, especially when his opponent shows weakness by just calling pre-flop and checking on the flop. When your head's up and you're the pre-flop raiser and it's checked to you, you should continue with your betting, known as a C-bet, almost 100% of the time.
And, you know, the betting patterns, they really do point to Steve having an ace in his hand.
Absolutely. So Jim is not only drawing to a straight in his mind, he's thinking maybe a king or a jack is good if he hits that. And there it is. There's
Hello.
a jack.
Hello. The Jim Casement special. Here comes that death stare, though.
Wow,
They both
nice check. It's a nice check,
I like that
really,
check.
by the ace
I like
10.
that. It really is a nice check.
Wow, and he gets rewarded for it. He makes the straight.
The 8 of diamonds.
I'm telling you, James, there's a lot of skill in the play of this hand. I really believe so. And Steve wisely took the free card and then got rewarded on the river by making the straight, and now is going for value.
Now, Jim doesn't think he's trapping him here, does he? Does Jim think he has the best hand?
Well, he can't. Not with 4 to a straight out there. I think right now he's just trying to, minimize his loss in this hand.
And he's going to see the bad news. Now, that was a very coordinated board. Jim probably shouldn't have made that call. Easy for us to say up here in the booth.
Because we can see the cards,
But
yeah.
Jim probably shouldn't have made that call.
No, not there.
All right, the action continues here from the Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago. James Larson, Kenna James, 3 players remain. Action on Chris, ace-8, suited in diamonds.
Another good hand, 3-handed. All these decisions are tough. When you got this much money on the line, though, and as you get short-handed, the hands go up in value. These marginal hands actually become premium hands, and that's why you're seeing players call with hands like this, with Jack-9.
Jim folds, Steve makes the call. But forget about the money for a second. Everybody wants to be the champion. You've been there. You've been an HPT champion, and there's something to be said about that. Huge flop here, couple of aces and a 5. I should say a huge flop for Chris.
Absolutely. Look at this, trip aces.
Steve's going to check.
And this should play out. Chris is probably going to try and let him catch up. It's not going to happen, and eventually Chris is going to make a bet and take this pot. But you're right. You're right, James. Some people play for the money. Some people play for the title. What do you play for?
Well, $212,000 almost for first. Right now, minimum is like $87,000. It's all great money, but now you add that title on top, and the bracelet, and the bragging rights, and the interview with Tatiana. It's all good.
Wow. Look at this. Steve now leading out on a pure bluff on the turn is obviously called by Chris. He must have heard what we said last week. Don't do the pushing when the donkeys are pulling.
River card now is the 10 of spades.
They can't hear us down there, can they?
I hope not. Action is on Mr. Jewell from Dyersville, Iowa, the 43-year-old, just $7,200 in lifetime earnings. He's going to bet $1.2 million.
Well, he's firing a second bullet bluff, as we call it.
Hey, Chris.
Good
call.
Chris is going to make the call, and Steve says, good call.
Now, Chris, some people at home might say, why doesn't he raise with his 3 aces? Because he's only going to get called when he's beat.
Exactly. And he could have been beat there. I'm sure that was going through his mind. His opponent could have had an ace there. Highly unlikely, I guess, Kenna,
Right.
but it could have been possible.
Absolutely. On the river, you never want to make a bet where you're only going to get called if you're beat. And so that's why he just decided to call there.
So great to be here at the Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago, just 25 miles from downtown Chi-Town, 56,000 square foot casino, and over 300 hotel rooms. Great to be back here.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
In East Chicago. Chris now with ace-8, going to raise it to $450,000. God, I think we're in for a real dogfight down this stretch here. Nobody wants to give this thing up. That's what I love about high-stakes poker, and we're seeing it right here. And now Jim Casement, a little bit of a misstep here. All in with his 7-6.
Wow. He must be tilting.
76 trombones.
So we can see that the effects of a previous hand affect him in the current hand, because this is the second time he's done this. And that's what we call tilt in poker.
All right, here we go to the flop. And the flop is ace-10-5, so bad news for Mr. Casement. He's going to have to go runner, or he's going to be eliminated in third place.
He's going to need a miracle. Only a 5% chance to survive. Ooh, look at this. Is he going to pull it out again? The turn card brings in an open-ended straight draw. Can Jim do it one more time?
Jim does have an open-ended straight draw here. He needs a 4.
Yes.
Oh, it's not a 4. It's not a 4. It's a 9.
Are you kidding me?
Unbelievable.
Oh, man. What excitement.
What surprises are in store for Chris, Jim, and Steve? Who will be missing a chair when the music stops? Stay tuned to find out.
Welcome back to the HBT. James Larson, Kenna James here at the Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago. Kenna, what a roller coaster it's been.
It has, James. A very volatile final table, which makes things a little shaky, a little uncertain. I mean, only 3 million chips separate the top from the bottom of chip leaders. Anything can happen.
At the risk of being cliche, it's really anybody's game.
It is.
Blinds are still 80,000, 160,000 with a 20K ante.
Jim, easier to remove an abscessed tooth with a spoon than get this guy out of this tournament.
So true, my friend. Action over to Chris. Looks down at 7-6 of hearts.
Nice hand.
He's going to limp in.
Well, yeah, I'd like to open up with a raise if you're going to play here. Take initiative.
Action over to Steve Jewell. Look at that. 2 red aces.
Are you kidding? Three-handed picking up the Rockets?
He's kind of wagging his tail a little bit there. A little bit of it. I think he likes him.
That could be a physical tell. That's a good point, James. That's a nice pickup.
It's easy for me. I'm up here in the booth. I've
No,
got
but when you're
surveillance.
when you're on the table, that's what you want to look for, those little physical tells to pick up on the strength of your opponent's hand.
The raise is to 500,000 chips. Chris makes the call, hoping to catch a good flop here. And the flop, 5-4-2 rainbow.
Are you kidding me? Is the trend going to continue? The best pre-flop hand not holding up. We got ace crackers on our hand. He's got the open-ended straight. How's he going to play it?
He checks. Action over to Steve with the 2 red aces. He's going to bet 800,000.
Now, Chris, should he check raise here or just flat and try to make his hand, before he really fires? Check raising on a semi-bluff is not a bad play here.
And he's going to raise now to 3 million chips.
Wow. I'm telling you, the pressure.
Now, you knew what Steve was going to do. He's all in.
Well, yeah. Now look
And
at the
Chris
swing
makes
in
the
this
call.
particular hand. This is real. A lot is swinging.
It's really the hand of the tournament.
Really
I
is.
hate to pick one hand, but this is huge. A pot of almost 10 million chips in there. That's right,
Man.
Kenna. 10 million turn card is the queen of diamonds. So Chris needs some help. He needs either a 3 or an 8. And it's the 7 of diamonds. So Steve's going to win the hand. So 2 very aggressive plays there.
Wow. And this went against the trend. Actually, the best starting hand ended up the best hand.
Now we're going to reconcile the chips here. And a huge chip lead now for Steve Jewell. Action over to the button now, and Mr. Jim Casement.
Who quietly sat out while all the fireworks went out in that last hand. Yeah.
Wisely sat out. Folded over now to Chris in the small. Looks down at King Deuce of hearts. It's important not to get on tilt after a play like
but
that.
But King High figures to be the best hand, on a three-handed table. And look, it is nothing but a couple of napkins here for Steve. So he's probably going to just check his option here and take the free flop.
And he's going to do just that.
Good play.
King Deuce going up against 7 Trey.
Sometimes when you sense weakness in your opponent, you want to get in there and just make a bet and try and take it. But he took the free flop and it worked out for him. Look at now he's flopped second pair.
Queen
actually
7-9. Yeah, a couple of
third pair.
spades. Third pair. Chris catches just 1 heart. He's going to bet 250.
Yeah, he makes a feeler bet, James. Just trying to feel where he's at in the hand. Is King High good or is it not? Steve's going to let him know right now. No, it's not good.
Steve's going to make the call. Pot of almost 1 million chips. So much at stake here at this HPT final table. Turn card now is the Jack of Diamonds.
This brings Chris into the hand a little bit because he's picked up a gut shot straight draw. So he's going to shut down. And Steve probably should check it back here on margin. There's too many hands he's behind for him to make a bet. Oh, wow.
The river card brings trips for Steve. A big whiff for Chris.
Lucky sevens. He's already in front anyway, but now Steve's going to probably look for value here, and Chris is just going to fold. I think this hand's going to play out. Well played by both players, I think.
Chris is going to check. Steve's now going to bet 600,000. And wow, Kenna, look at that stare by Steve. Wow.
He's looking into his soul.
He really is. And that is a fold. Steve Jewell is going to win the hand, the 43-year-old from Dyersville, Iowa. That is a real city. I've been there. I've been to Dyersville a couple of times.
You said that's where the Field of Dreams actually is, right?
Field of Dreams. They actually filmed the movie there. Kevin Costner. Great movie.
Yeah. Well, here in poker, can dreams come true? Absolutely. When you play the HPT event, I'll tell you, low risk, high reward for one of these players, over $200,000.
Blinds are now 100,000, 200,000 with a 30K chip ante. Action's on Steve Jewell. Looks down at Queen 10. He's going to become the mayor of Dyersville after he takes this thing down. If he takes this thing down.
Key to the city?
The key to the city. I think all the doors are pretty much open in Dyersville. It's a pretty small area. Action over to Jim Casement now.
I really like Jim's pacing. I like his luck factor. I like how he's running.
He's going to re-raise
Good.
to over
Good.
$1 million.
3 betting with the best hand.
1.75. It's one of my favorite numbers, actually, 1.75.
Really?
I really like it.
Oh, you are weird, man.
It's a re-raise.
What's your favorite number? 1.75.
Leader is the answer to that. Over to Steve, who's going to make the call now.
Yeah, he makes it in position, which is good, you know. He has the value of position. He does have a reasonable hand with Broadway. Let's go to the flop and see what happens.
Flop now is King 6 deuce, couple of diamonds. Not much for either player, and Jim's ace is still good.
Both players whiff. Now here, Jim, again, I think, makes a mistake by checking. When you're the pre-flop raiser, especially a 3-better, you should lead into the pot and force your opponent to a decision, a tougher decision.
Turn card now is the tray of diamonds, so good news for Steve as he picks up a diamond draw now.
Very important. Yeah. And now will Jim pull the trigger? Nope. He's going to check. Steve now on a semi-bluff with the worst hand, but betting because his opponent has shown weakness on 2 consecutive streets. I like this. It gives him 2 ways to win. He can either pull a diamond on the river, or he could force his opponent into a fold right now. As you can see, Jim has a tough decision. Look at the tell. You see how his hand is around his mouth, and he's given up the pot. Good play, Steve.
Little grumble there and a fold by Jim. And with that, Steve extends his lead and makes his presence known with authority. Can he ride his momentum to an HPT championship? We'll be back to find out after this. Welcome back to the Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago. Just 25 minutes from the Windy City, right here on the shores of Lake Michigan.
Now look at our chip count. Still anybody's game, even though Steve is way in front with 12.5 million. Double ups really change quickly here. And don't forget, $50,000 difference between second and third.
Steve is pulling away. He's got roughly 65% of the chips in play, but Jim and Chris want to make a change. And the way this final table is going, as you know, Kenna, here on the HPT, anything is possible.
Things change at the turn of a card in poker.
Blinds at 100,000, 200,000 with a 30K ante. The price of poker, it's expensive here on the HPT.
It's going up, and so does elevate the pressure on these players.
Don't forget, first place money tonight, almost $212,000. Unbelievable. Somebody's going to leave really happy, in a very good mood.
Absolutely.
Steve's going to raise up to $500,000 with his 9-6. Casement is going to come along with his king deuce of diamonds. And we go to the flop, heads up. Jim and Steve, 2 5s and a 4. Rainbow.
Now, king high, obviously the best hand here. And as an experienced player on a paired board, a dry board like this, you should know king high is best. And when it's checked to you, follow it up with a bet. Let's see if he does it on the turn.
Turn card is the 4 of spades, so 5s and 4s on board. Kind of a weird hand, but remember, you're just heads up here, so you really gotta get in your opponent's head.
Well, that's why Jim should have made a bet here when checked to, because now Steve, in effect, is stealing position from him, meaning he can take over the lead because he saw that Jim showed weakness by checking it back on the flop, and now he leads into him. So, in effect, he's stealing position, and he steals this pot away with 9 high. Good play.
Great
Way to go,
play.
Steve.
Jim's going to fold. Steve's going to win that hand. We're still at 3 players. It's James Larson and Kenna James. Steve has a big lead, but Jim and Chris are hanging around like barnacles waiting for a big hand and the chance to double up, and it can happen.
Barnacles? Barnacles?
I watched SpongeBob in the hotel this morning.
Oh,
Give me a
you're
break.
something.
Action on Mr. Casement. He's smiling. He's having fun. Looks down at King Queen.
Here's our abscess tooth, Jim.
Yeah, he just hangs around. You can't get rid of this guy, Casement. He's that guy at the party that just won't go home.
Hang around. The guy's got alligator blood.
Got to get a Rounders reference in there at least
I
three
love
times
that
a show.
movie. It
We have
started
to.
it all, man. I love it. I've met those guys. I've played with them. Wow, what exciting times for poker. It really flipped the script on poker and allowed us to produce shows like these great shows that
We
that
owe it all
bring-
to Rounders. Forget about Chris Moneymaker and everybody else. The raise was the $500,000. Steve makes the call with his 8-7.
All right, back to the action here.
Jack, 10, deuce, couple of clubs.
Yep, now Jim flops 2 overs and an open-ended straight and has the best hand and check 2. You better bet it this time, Jim. Come on.
Check, check, check it, a checkity.
He does
7
it.
of diamonds. No
What is
deal.
he waiting for?
And now Steve pairs his 7.
And why? And this is why Jim has gone from best to worst here. He let his opponent catch up.
Wow, he's checking again.
So, pretty straightforward.
And now we go to the river card,
Wow.
another 7. So 3 of a kind here for Steve Jewell as he covers his mouth there.
Yeah.
Is that a tell too?
It could be, but he's got strength here. So normally it shows weakness when you cover the mouth, but here he has strength.
500,000, and Jim makes the call.
Jim pays off with just king high, and Steve deserves this pot.
Talked about it before, 212,000, just under that for first place. But right now they're all guaranteed 86,156, and right in the middle, I'd like second place money. I'd settle for that, $131,208. That's not
What would you do?
bad.
What would you do with 130,000?
I'd take you to out to dinner, and we'd have a
Oh
big
wow,
steak.
you're so generous.
You have to get the tip though. I'll pick up the tab. You get the tip.
Wow, pick up the tab. 130,000 picks up a dinner
Right,
tab.
yeah. Chris is going to raise it to 450,000 with his Jack 10. Steve right behind him with a Jack 10.
Right, Steve is suited though, which gives him about a 3% edge. Jim, he's got the best hand again. Will he stand up and fight for the lead, or is he just going to call and play along?
He's just going to call and play along.
You know, this kind of passive play, especially shorthanded, usually comes up to bite you in the butt.
Kenna James, also a poker coach. I'll give you that website later. 10-4 deuce, couple of clubs. Both Chris and Steve hitting their 10.
Yep, and now once again, Jim has gone from best to worst by not fighting for and taking the lead. Let's see what happens. This will be interesting how this hand plays out since they've both flopped top pair now.
Steve's going to bet 800,000, and Jim gets out of the way. So action over to Chris.
Do you call or do you raise here?
Oh, he's all in.
Wow. And I think Steve, you know, he's got the chip lead. He's got plenty of chips. He's going to call this, and it's going to end up being a chop pot. Plus, there's 2 clubs on board. He could put his opponent on a flush draw. Really?
That or he's going to fold.
Really?
Steve gave it some thought, but he decided to fold, and Chris closes the gap. Can he come from behind and take down this title? Well, the only way to find out is to stay tuned right here on the HPT. Welcome back to the HPT. It's James Larson and Kenna James.
James, let's look at the chip count with Steve Jewell up on top, 11.8 million with 1 courtesy double up. Chris Bradshaw could be right back in it, and Jim bringing up the rear with nearly 3 million in chips.
Chris looking for a CDU.
Courtesy double up.
Those are fun.
Yeah, they are.
Especially
boy.
when it makes you all of a sudden the chip leader with just one of them. Speaking of that, Chris here with ace 5 of diamonds, 200,000 for him to make the call. I suspect a raise.
Yes, especially 3-handed on the button. These are the type, you know, you're really looking at one card, an
Oh, boy.
ace.
The raise was the 450,000, but Steve wakes up with pocket kings.
Really? 3-handed pocket kings? This is a dream come true.
Steve is thinking, I'm so close to this HPT title. I can taste it. And now I've got pocket kings. I'm going to re-raise it. Why not to 1.1?
Look at this now.
Jim's got a decent hand here with Queen 10 of spades.
His challenge is he's out chipped and he's out positioned. How is he going to play it? And you can see he's got a tough decision to make.
Now keep in mind, 86,000 and change for third, 131,000 for second.
All in. Chris announced all in and a call.
You heard him.
Chris.
All in and a call.
By Steve.
Pocket kings for Steve. Chris with the ace-5.
Is it a misstep by Chris? Or, you know the theme of our show, the worst hand gets there?
The flop is 9-8-6, only one diamond.
Chris running diamonds, an ace, a 7 will make him the best hand.
Turn card now, another diamond. This time the king of diamonds. Nothing's easy.
No. Chris still in this. He needs a diamond to stay alive as long as it doesn't pair the board. Otherwise, it'll make Steve a full house. To the river we go.
A pot of almost 11 million chips. And the river card is the 4 of clubs, and that's going to do it. Steve's going to win the pot, eliminating Chris Bradshaw in third place. Chris will earn just over $86,000, and Kenna, he played pretty well.
He really did, James. Just a little misstep with the ace, but you can't blame him three-handed.
The 2 players remaining are both amateurs, and Steve's really been playing well.
He really has. He's used his position to outplay the pros. You know, now he's got a 17 to 2.6 million chip lead, but don't count Jim out. With a couple of double-ups, he has the chip lead.
It's poker. Anything can happen. Down to business as the players are heads up. Both are looking at that top prize of almost $212,000. Blinds are $150,000 and $300,000. Let's play some poker.
Down to business it is as Steve picks up ace-jack on the button. Another dream hand heads up. This hand has got a lot of value. You're going to get dealt so many junk hands when you're heads up.
Steve's going to raise it to $700,000 with his ace-jack. And now a quick all-in by Jim and a snap call by Steve. Jim's got the best of it with his ace-king going up against Steve's ace-jack, and Steve pretty much says, all right, good hand. Heads up. What do you want me to do here?
He threw his hands up as if, what am I supposed to do here?
All right, we go to the flop, and just like that, a king in the window. The flop comes out king, queen, 7, but pretty good news, actually, for Steve-O.
James, this is another one of those situations where a player needs a gutter ball, and certainly Jim did it earlier. Can the script be flipped and Steve do it against Jim to the turn?
And the turn card, another king, this time the king of spades, so... Did you hear Steve? That looks pretty dang good.
Of course, depending on your point of view.
All right.
Can Jim dodge a 10?
10 balls, what Steve's calling for. It's not. It's the 7 of diamonds. So Jim Casement, you talked about him on last week's show. You can't get rid of this guy.
This guy's an abscess tooth looking for a spoon.
I mean, the bar has already called last call. We're cleaning up the carpets. Casement, he's been out the door, down to the cage a couple of times, but he keeps hanging around. The action continues now. Steve looks down at pocket 4s.
You know, it's 16-1 to be dealt a pair, so this is a great hand heads up. And it figures to be the best, 1 out of every 15 times.
Boy, you were hitting Google pretty hard last night in the hotel room. Good for you. It's a raise.
I'm on.
And now an all-in by Jim. The raise by Steve and a quick all-in.
Jim really feeling it here. Moving all in with 10-8 of diamonds.
And a call has been made, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be 10-8 from Mr. Casement going up against Steve's pocket 4s. This could be it right here. This could end the night. We could have a brand new HPT champion, but look at those percentages. 51 to 48. It's a coin toss. And the flop is ace 9-8.
Jim, now casually, look at, he just casually takes it. Well, of course I'm going to win. I've won every time I've got it in behind.
This Jim Casement is something else. Turn card now is the deuce of spades.
Steve's going to need a 4, one of the last 2 4s.
And now we go to the river. And the river card is the 6 of spades. Unbelievable. Jim doubles up and is now the chip leader. It's hard to believe. When we return, it is truly anyone's ball game. You got to stay tuned to see what happens next right here on the HPT. Welcome back to the HPT as we broadcast from the Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago. Well, Ken, it's great to be back here in the Chicagoland area, and I want to thank the entire staff for all their hospitality. It's always a pleasure to be at this fantastic property.
And you can see by looking at those chip counts that Jim Casement, who's in this event for only $375, has taken over the chip lead, and he's also a lawyer. He's making a case for becoming the next HPT champion.
But Steve, he's got something else to say about it. Pocket tens now. Steve Jewell, he's also into this thing for just $375 from Dyersville, Iowa. He's going to raise it up to $750,000. He's hoping his opponent has something, and he does. King 9.
Both these players in this tournament for $375 competing for $200,000. That's the dream of playing in the HPT.
A raise has been announced. Now, Jim, you just got those chips. Make sure you hold on to them for a while. He's going to re-raise to 1.75.
He's like a horse going for the finish line with a carrot. But the key is you don't get the carrot during the race. You get it when you finish the race. And it's going to be very important for Jim to maintain composure here. Oh,
and now look at this. Steve is all in.
Look at this.
This is going to give Jim a migraine headache.
It looks like he's got a headache. He's got to maintain his composure and not just snap call here.
He's thinking about it. Jim Casement. Boy, he's been running well at this final table. He's making the right decision here.
Yes.
He's going to fold his hand, and I believe now that makes Steve a chip leader.
Yes, it's
for the
back
moment, anyway.
Well, it's back and forth, up and down, back and forth.
And you know, Kenna, it's been 3 long days of poker. These guys got to be tired.
Absolutely. The fatigue factor with the emotional swings of this game, fighting through over 600 players, down to heads up. People at every turn just trying to take your chips from you.
Steve with 6 deuce. You know what helps that fatigue? $212,000.
And a cup of coffee.
Right. So Steve's going to make the call. Jim's going to check his option and just enjoy his coffee.
Jim, put the coffee down. We're playing for big money here.
We go to the flop. It's 8-5 tray. They're all hearts.
Steve's flopped the flush. Jim with third pair on board. Sometimes heads up. A pair looks like a pretty good hand. Here, it's deadly.
He's going to check. Steve also has the straight flush draw. Gutter ball straight flush draw. Flops the flush. Boy, things looking pretty good here for Steve Jewell. He's going to bet $500,000. Casement still, he won't let go of the coffee. He won't let go of it.
And he won't let go of this hand when he should. He's got bottom pair. He's got no flush draw. What's he doing?
Like this. I don't like this. He's raising it up to $2.5 million. Action over to Steve.
Steve is like a fisherman deciding, how do I get this fish in the boat?
And he's going to make the call.
That's
Boy,
it.
What a big hand here, Ken. A huge hand.
Yes, when you got the fish on the line, James, don't let him off. This could be it.
Turn card is the 6 of diamonds. A good card, but a bad card for Jimmy.
He moves all in. This is the danger. It pulls him into the pot, but you don't want it pulling you into the pot when you have the worst hand.
But I have to remind you, my friend, this is Jim Casement. He's got 2 pair. He can turn this into a full house.
We've seen it before.
It's Jim Casement. He's the guy that won't leave the party. He's been hanging around ever since last week. This guy won't go anywhere. We go to the river. It's not to be, though. It's the 9 of diamonds, and that's going to do it for Mr. Casement. And just like that, we've got a brand new HPT champion. The 43-year-old from Dyersville, Iowa, Steve Jewell, is going to go home with almost $212,000.
Well, Steve hung in there through all the craziness, and now he's our new HPT champion.
Yeah, we got to give credit to Jim, too. He really hung in there, short stacked all day on the final table, and he really crawled himself up to second place and over $130,000.
That's a great payday for Jim Casement. He's down at the table with Tatiana.
Is there anything that you would have done different by now?
Well, obviously, I wouldn't have shoved on that last hand, but other than that, I think I played pretty well today. I think it was a pretty good day.
It's not a bad day at the office, over $133,000.
No, nothing to. I came in. I wasn't the biggest stack here, and I came in second place, so it's a good finish.
Any plans with the money?
No, not yet. I'll see what my wife wants to do with it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Congratulations one more time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Tatiana. But the night belongs to the 43-year-old amateur from Dyersville, Iowa, Steve Jewell, our newest HPT champion.
You know, I love it, James, when these amateurs come in and battle the pros, especially when they prevail. Well done.
He's got the cash, he's got the title, and he's down at the table with Tatiana.
How are you feeling?
Wonderful. This is ecstatic. I can't even beat the feeling.
Well, you showed up here, you won event 4, then you qualified into this event. What's your secret?
I don't know. Run well. That's all I can say is when you're running good, that good things can happen to you.
Do you think running well was the only thing that got you into this position?
It's a combination of both. Good luck and good play will get you here.
Awesome. Thank you very much, and congratulations one more time.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tatiana. And one more time, congratulations to Steve Jewell, our new HPT champion. What an awesome week it was here at the Ameristar Casino Hotel East Chicago. We saw a lot of great poker.
We did, James. It's great working with you.
Always.
And being here on the HPT, baby.
Well, had a lot of fun. I want to thank our entire HPT crew staff, Tatiana, Kenna. I'm James Larson. We'll see you next time on the HPT.